As a young citizen of India, armed with technology, knowledge, and love for my nation, with a vision of transforming India into a developed nation, I am joining Shobhit University. What about you?
Very good morning to all the participants from India and abroad. Shobhit Institute of Engineering and Technology, Meerut, and its deemed to be its centers of excellence, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Application, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, in association with African Asian Rural Development Organization (ARDO), New Delhi, organize this weekly international webinar series on open source digital technologies for self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Today is the 75th edition of this webinar series. 21st May 2022, 11:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. On behalf of the Honorable Chancellor, His Excellency the Secretary General ARDO, Honorable Vice Chancellor, the faculty members of the university, and on my behalf, and as Professor Emeritus and Chairman of Centers of Excellence, Center for Agricultural Informatics and E-Governance Research Studies, Center for Agribusiness and Disaster Management Studies, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Application, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, and Center for Health Informatics and Computing. Let me welcome our guest speaker of today's webinar, Mr. Andrew Gavagan. And he is Head New Venture, Global Opportunities Commercialization, and Head of Growth, Main Stage Incubator of Germany in Australia. He will be talking to our audience from Melbourne. The current time in Melbourne is 4 p.m. On the important topic, commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-Artificial Intelligence. Let me repeat, commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-AI. I wish to inform the participants and the guest speaker that under this international webinar series, the Shobhit Institute of Engineering and Technology, Meerut, deemed to be university, and its centers of excellence, Center for Informatics Development Solution and Application, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, have organized 74 lectures on important topic, namely open technologies to provision simple and economical IT infrastructure, a roadmap for students using free and open source software and reaching goals of Atmanirbhar Bharat, open source software and industrial IoT for SMEs, free and open source software adoption and business models, open data platform for smart digital government, technology imperative, make in India for self-reliance, edge artificial intelligence, data governance for self-reliant India, Digital India, transforming governance and society, India's email service, citizen@indiamail.com in 22 constitutionally recognized languages, ecosystem architecture for digital transformation, education system, cyber critical infrastructure, seizing opportunities in open innovation, and value creation network in the digital world for self-reliant economy. Today's topic is also on the similar area. Seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network in the digital world for self-reliant economy by Dr. Jebamale Vinanja Arachi, for the former principal advice to the Director General UNIDO. He gave on 5th December 2020. Ensuring food safety and compliance through technology, Digital India, urgent need for semiconductor manufacturing in India, technology investment in agriculture value chain, role of FDIs, entrepreneurship and skill development, AI design pathways, the rise of platform economy, revisiting value chain governance, era of automation, industrial robotics, and Industry 4.0, Indo-German perspective of technology transfer, skill gap analysis, and opportunities. Role of artificial intelligence in healthcare, current developments in diagnosis and vaccine research, digital agri-tech and agri-startup perspective, health informatics network value chain, e-health system and beyond. Leveraging emerging technologies for ensuring transparent and traceable agri and food supply chain. Unleash the power of citizen development for enterprise, software development, e-governance models towards sustained quality service to citizen backed by technology. Indian MSME to adopt Industry 4.0 technology capabilities, urgent need for mentorship and accelerator program, building public digital platform using microservices and APIs, health informatics network value chain, early childhood development and learning, health informatics network value chain, clinical AI, interface between machine learning and health informatics, health informatics network value chain, importance of social medicine and community health in the times of health emergency. G-Filter, a simple, low-cost solution to the drinking water treatment in rural India. Open source GovTech startups empowering growth with automation. Digital transformation in small enterprises and small businesses of India, challenges and opportunities. National Digital Twin Program, need for a robust geospatial infrastructure. Industry 4.0 in MSMEs, benefits of indigenously developed CollabCAD software from National Informatics Center, Government of India. Mass serialization and anti-counterfeiting solution to fight illicit trade by Johnny Samuel, an young entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Reslan startup. Cybersecurity, risk, challenges and solutions, intelligence approach to reduce cyber risk. New Internet IPv6 root server toward Atmanirbhar Connected Bharat. Indian startups, reflections, and possible policy intervention needed for scaling up to Gram Panchayat. Blockchain and crypto for digital assets platform, pathways for global trade. Robot as a service, leverage technology to solve enterprise challenges. Space startups connecting to international market with emerging business models. Enabling technologies for future vision. Vivekananda Secondary Education and Skills Development Mega Project to its potential impact on rural entrepreneurship and the rural economy in India. Sports Grail, a digital sports media platform and prospects of Indian sports industry sustainability model at global level. Pharma 4.0, Industry 4.0 applications in pharmaceutical industry. Path to a digital transformation. Accelerate and scale non-linear growth through partner ecosystem. Technological renaissance and human capital, a perspective. Health informatics network value chain. Medical outreach, challenges and potential. Beyond COVID-19, revitalizing micro and small enterprises. Project management essentials, launchpad for future CEOs and startup founders beyond. Society 5.0, a new society beyond Industry 4.0 and post-COVID-19. Smart village oblique community, the African ICT oblique IoT lesson. Digital economy, ways and means to protect and empower for self-reliance. Pragmatic ways for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Democratization of essential services by using sustainable energy as a catalyst. Transforming India through relevant education and vocational training. Digital technology in simplifying citizen life. Online learning during the pandemic and its future. Smart microeconomic zone, pathways for self-reliance at village level, Atmanirbhar village. Crime prediction support system. Knowledge management for development partnership to achieve the sustainable development goals of UN and implementing the Agenda 2030. Millet value chain from IoT to blockchain, a traceability roadmap. aspirational district program in left-wing extremism affected district, a successful model of data-driven governance, digital agriculture supply chain and a training hub, a geo-economic perspective, market-driven agriculture, need for development of crop-specific strategies at block level, an open agri-network to unlock $1 trillion plus potential of Indian agriculture with smallholder farmers. Let me repeat, which is also relevant to today's topic. A open network to unlock the $1 trillion plus potential of Indian agriculture with smallholder farmers, developing rural entrepreneurship to ensure doubling of farmers' income, leveraging the power of convergence through connecting the dots, agri startups, agripreneurs, and rural innovators. Agronomy plus artificial intelligence equal to precision farming, doubling farmers' income, imperatives of plant health informatics network, developing commercial breadfruit value chain to help farmers reach high value markets. Today is the 75th edition of this very important webinar series. We'll have the talk by our guest speaker, Andrew Gavagan, Head of New Ventures, Global Opportunities Commercialization, Melbourne, Australia, and a very important topic, commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-AI. Dear participants, India has got Atmanirbhar Bharat mission. It's the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, of making India a self-reliant nation, rested on 5 I's: intent, inclusion, investment, infrastructure, and innovation, based on 5 pillars, namely quantum jump in economy, infrastructure, one that represents modern India, system 21st century technology driven, vibrant demography, and demand whereby the strength of our demand and supply chain should be utilized to full capacity. And vocal for local to make it global is a demand-based economy system which is self-producing and self-consuming. Agriculture sector is the foundation of Indian economy. India lives in villages, and it employs more than 50% of the India's workforce and contributes almost 19% of its GDP. Climate change has both direct and indirect effects on agriculture productivity, including changing rainfall patterns, severe droughts, flooding, and changes in geographical redistribution of pests and diseases. India's labor-intensive and subsistence-based agriculture sector is particularly vulnerable to this development. Indian farmers are facing multidimensional problems: price fluctuation, debt, and lack of infrastructure and weather. Indian farming community comprises of about 14.5 crores operational holding, of which 85% of the farmers are having small and marginal size operational holdings. Farmer needs timely, location specific, and personalized information for effective control on their production risk, and then market their produce to identified market opportunities. Honorable Prime Minister of India, in his Independence Day address on 15th August 2021, he said, I quote, "In the coming years, we will have to increase the collective power of small farmers of the country. We have to increase the collective power of the small farmers of the country. We have to give them new facilities, and they must become the country's pride." On 28th February 2016, while addressing a farmers' rally in Uttar Pradesh, he said, "My dream is to see farmers double their income by 2022, when the country completes 75 years of independence." Once again, on 16th April 2022, he said, "India cannot afford to remain stagnant at this juncture, and it has to be self-reliant. And if people use local goods for the next 25 years, the the country will not have to face the issue of unemployment. What we need is market-driven agriculture. We need to have development of cross-specific strategies at block level. Indian agriculture production for food staples is highly monsoon dependent, and farm yields are generally below world averages. Low productivity is caused by many factors, such as inadequate farmer education and training, heavy government regulation, inefficient food distribution systems, and poor infrastructure, which results in post-harvest losses up to 40% of certain products, unpredictable weather, and small average farm size, and domestic agriculture support programs and subsidies that distort market signals and hamper investment. Agriculture sector is slowly shifting from traditional farming to horticulture and livestock production. The demand for fresh and processed products of all types is increasing as the population urbanizes, income rise, and consumption habits change. Growth of an efficient cold chain network from farm to fork will help curb the spoilage rate of agriculture output while helping producers capture value as products retain quality and provide increased benefits to the consumers. The use of e-commerce has also expanded dramatically due to lockdown restrictions and social distancing norms. Indian customers turn to e-commerce platform to secure essential food supplies. Since the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, e-commerce sector has seen significant changes as many food manufacturers, retailers, distributors, and importers and e-commerce firms have come together to develop new distribution networks and take advantages of synergies. This is why I'm quoting is that today's topic is on important, relevant topic today. I also would like to tell the reforms towards digitalization of Indian agriculture system. Doubling farmers' income by 2022 committee report 2018 had 14 volumes, out of which 2 volumes I have been associated closely as group leader. Volume 11 talks about empowering the farmers through extension and knowledge dissemination. Volume 12b, digital technology in agriculture. It recommends 7 mission mode programs for total digitalization of Indian agriculture system. This is also relevant for all African and Asian countries where smallholder farms are increasing. And namely, the digitalized agriculture, digital technology, and innovation in agriculture, and through 3 verticals: smart irrigated farming, smart rainfed farming, and smart tribal farming. Digitalized agromet advisories and agriculture risk management solutions. Digitalized agriculture resources information system and micro level planning, facilitating smart village and smart farming. Digitalized value chain for about 400 agriculture commodities. The committee recommends to have digitalized value chain for about 400 agriculture commodities from India. Digitalized access to inputs, technology, skill, knowledge, agriculture, finance, credit, marketing, and agribusiness management to farmers. Digitalized integrated land and water management and digitalized farm health management for reduction of farmers' loss. This is integrated approach for farmers' health, that is human health, plant health, animal health, soil health, water health, and fish health, and environmental health. It is $1 trillion data economy using GIS technology and a particular location, the health parameters of human, plant, animal, soil, fish, and environment, water and environmental health can be mapped, and so that in future we don't have to lock down the entire country in case of any emergencies such as COVID-19. Digital India program aims to transform India into a knowledge-based economy and a digitalized, empowered society. Right, we are also witnessing the rise of platform economy. Digital ecosystems are essential for digital transformation in the digital world. In India, we are seeing the ecosystems such as agriculture 4.0, industry 4.0, and society 5.0. We also have 25 years perspective plan from India at 75 to India at 100, labeled Amrit Kal led up to at 100. And it works on four priorities. Prime Minister's Gadi Shakti means all vertical silos will be interoperable, and inclusive development, productivity enhancement in investment, sunrise opportunities, energy transition, and climate action, and financing of investment. We also have sustainable development goals of the United Nations and Agenda 30, which gives the future we want. It has 17 goals and 169 targets to be achieved. And in 1992, at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, more than 178 countries adopted Agenda 21. In Chapter 14, which talks about sustainable agriculture rural development, this has attracted me. And on the basis, I had the National Conference on Informatics for Sustainable Agriculture way back in May 1995 and prepared the IT blueprint for digitalization of Indian agriculture. And I'm very happy that from 1995 onwards, I've been closely associated with the IT Informatics for Sustainable Agriculture Development through 15 Informatics Network. Later, these informatics programs have become the backbone for evolving agricultural informatics program at the M.Tech level and B.Tech level, BG level, and MBA level in the Shobhit Institute of Engineering and Technology deemed to be university through 5 centers of excellence. This is the first private university or first university in the world to have to concentrate on agricultural informatics and e-governance in the world through formal education at the level of M.Tech in agricultural informatics, B.Tech in agricultural informatics, BG diploma in agricultural informatics, and so on and so forth. And it is also the time to leverage the power of convergence through connecting the dots, agri startups, agripreneurs, and rural innovators. The growth of Agri-Tech startups in India started with the 43 startups in 2013. Now it has got more than 10,000 startups in 2022. From the university, we have been promoting and propagating that at least every Gram Panchayat, India has got about 2.25 lakh Gram Panchayat. To help 14.5 crore operational holders, we need to have a 2.25 lakh agri deep tech startups, one in every Gram Panchayat level, to help the 14.5 crores operational holders in the country. Value chain development. Value chain brings all the stakeholders engaged in the production system on a common platform to contribute their best while ensuring fair deal and transparency. I would like to quote from the report Global Value Chain Development Report 2021, Beyond Production. This is a report of Asian Development Bank. It talks about that global value chain are the cross-border networks that bring a product or a service from consumption to market. Digital platforms are changing who participate in global value chain, increasing opportunities for developing economies and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. For developing economies and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. This platform also can bring challenges, including uneven access to digital infrastructure and a tendency towards consolidation that reduces competition. And Indian Agriculture Export Policy 2018 also talks about that the time has come to integrate Indians world agri exports share. We have to integrate with global value chain at the earliest. strive to double India's share in the world agri exports by integrating with the global value chain at the earliest. And I also would like to quote in the two webinar series, in the international webinar series on open source digital technology towards self-reliant India, and also in the national webinar series on doubling farmers' income by 2022, we had a talk on about 23 webinars, especially for the integrated agriculture value chain challenges and opportunities in the agriculture sector. So it is very important that today's talk, commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-AI, are very important. In this webinar series, I would like to quote three important topics which we discussed: seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network in the digitalized world for self-reliant economy, by none other than Dr. Jabamale Vinanji Arachi, and former principal advisor to the Director General, United Nations Industrial Development Corporation Organization, Vienna. And an open agri network to unlock $1 trillion plus potential of Indian agriculture with a smallholder farm. Leveraging the power of convergence through connecting the dots, agri startups, agri entrepreneurs, and rural innovators. Then, doubling the farmer's income through integrated agri value chain. It's very important. And agriculture export management imperatives of integrating with the global value chain at the earliest. And in order to create an income revolution in the agriculture sector, we needed to capture the entire value chain from research to the stage where farmers are able to realize money in their pocket. Inputs, production, farming, harvesting, food processing, packaging, and retail. We need to unlock a large opportunity through digital and analytics. Agriculture supply chain optimization, value creation. And I would like to quote from McKinsey report, which is dated 12th May 2022. They clearly say that digital and analytics technologies offer a way to create value by optimizing the supply chain in agriculture. Digital and analytics technologies offer a way to create value by optimizing the supply chain in agriculture. Companies in many industries have found that they can create value by applying digital and analytics technologies to new business models and products offering. Now, agriculture players, from farmers to end consumers, are discovering that these technologies can play a role in optimizing the frontishly complex agriculture supply chain, agriculture supply chain. And then this article talks about that why agriculture supply chain are so complicated and how companies can use digital and analytics technologies to optimize them. Players that employ techniques such as digital twins could achieve a competitive advantage in a challenging market. So application of digital twins in the agriculture supply chain optimization and value creation is an essential component, ingredient. Most companies understand the technical challenges of implementing a digital twin. Success requires two additional ingredients: sufficient industry and supply chain expertise to define the object function of the digital twin. Change management effects aimed at all stakeholders, from farmers to agriculture players, is very important. India should take advantage in association with that global opportunities, corporation. Value capture requires a threefold approach: solution design, process and capability embedding, and technical implementation. Digital analytics and analytics technologies can arm well-placed industry leaders with a new source of competitive advantage by unleashing untapped value within the agriculture supply chain. Strong links to markets for poor rural producers are essential to increasing agricultural income, generating economic growth in rural areas, and reducing hunger and poverty. This is from the report of Commodity Value Chain Development Projects of www.ifad.org dated October 2014. Every product is sold locally, nationally, or internationally is often part of an agriculture value chain. From a development perspective, value chain are one of the instruments through which market forces can be harnessed to benefit poor rural women and men, not just producers, but wage earners, service providers, and others. Industry 4.0 supply chain talks about traceable agri-food supply chain, real-time monitoring, organized inventory, decision making, IoT, AI, and machine learning, blockchain, automation, reduced labor. This can become a part of the digital twin, connecting the agriculture supply chain, farmer, warehouse, processing center, service providers, extension agents, and logistics. According to the synopsis of the guest speaker, I would like to quote, with a large and heterogeneous of agriculture commodities, it is imperative that countries begin maintaining, integrating, and updating their supply chain. As the world recovers economically from the pandemic and the fallout from the conflict in Eastern European bloc, countries are looking more closely to optimizing their trade production, diversity, and forging new relationship with the buyers. They're closely to optimizing their trade production, diversity, and forging new relations with the buyers. Countries are seeing opportunities as well as risks in how they can create greater value, leveraging new technologies for their commodity needs. Although with these challenges of adapting to different emerging situations, it has become a pressing imperative for countries and allies to now establish trading routes and collaborate in this effort even more than before. Allied industries such as logistics are beginning to integrate of technology with AI. This is where startups share capture market share and create value via this hole in the market. It's very clearly brought out synopsis. With this background, let us now turn to the address by our guest speaker, Andrew Gavagan, Head of New Ventures, Global Opportunities Commercialization, and Head of Growth, Main Stage Incubator of Germany in Australia, Melbourne, on a very important topic, commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-AI. This topic will motivate and galvanize the participants watching our telecast through facebook.com/Shobhit University India or youtube.com/Shobhit University in or linkedin.com/company/Shobhit-University for motivating them to get inspired to work through startups at Gram Panchayat level on commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-AI. India has got about 2.25 lakh Gram Panchayat, and Indian farming community comprises about 14.5 crore operational holders, out of which 85% farmers having small and marginal operational holdings. We need to have smart irrigated farming, smart rainfed farming, smart tribal farming, and smart hill farming. Let us initiate proof of concept project in member countries of ORDO, commodity value chain through Agri-Net and Agri-AI. Let me introduce our guest speaker to the participants of this webinar, Mr. Manish. Mr. Andrew Gavagan has extensive expertise in areas of commodity markets, stock markets, entrepreneurship, and startups. He currently manages commodity transactions in the fields of energy, metals, food, and construction worth over $1 billion trading across 4 continents. Andrew Gavagan serves as the head of new ventures at Global Opportunities Commercialization Private Limited, head at growth of Mainstage Australia Private Limited, and co-founder of Mass Official Private Limited, organization that collectively deliver products and services, brokerage of commodities across multiple markets, entrepreneurship, funding, and commercialization assistance. Andrew Gavagan is an international speaker, speaking at forums in Asia, Africa, India, and Oceania region on themes relating to infrastructure and assistance projects, agriculture, curricular design, and education models, international trade, and global markets. He holds a financial planning degree from the Australian University at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. With this, I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Andrew Gavagan, to address the international webinar series on open source digital technology for self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and very important topic, commodity value chain creation through Agri-Net and Agri-AI. Over to you, Mr. Gavagan.
Thank you so much, Professor Moni. That was a very, very brilliant, and really appreciate the very warm introduction. It's a very great honor to speak at this event, and I hope everyone that is watching can learn and we can capitalize on such an amazing market and such an amazing network as well as technology that we are constantly missing in all these areas that we say that we can use, but yet we don't. We don't utilize them to the best of our ability. So this presentation is about the commodity value chain creation. What that means, of course, is that through commodities, agriculture commodities specifically, that we find the value from the start of the production, and that means of the planting of the commodity all the way to the end user, to the food on your table. And that is, of course, through creation of value through each area of the supply chain, and using and capitalizing on traditional agriculture networks and new agriculture networks that are emerging due to the pandemic, due to the issues that are currently in in Europe at the moment, as well as agriculture AI. Utilizing all these, we can then create something magnificent. As Professor Moni said, that we're connecting the dots to a $1 trillion+ agriculture network and agriculture AI, as well as a market. It's an amazing market that we still have not yet fully utilized, that we have not fully captured. And it is, what I find amazing is that it's consistently growing due to the fact of utilizing technology in a creative manner. So we talk about the global supply chain, how the pandemic has affected every single country, and how now people and nations are thinking, how can we change up our supply chain, our global supply chain? How can we make new avenues? Do we de-escalate globalization and bring everything back, or do we increase it? And that is a brilliant question of, do we follow the old ways and see what happens, or do we grow everything? Do we take a step back and grow everything and start to move everything differently? Because as the pandemic has shown, that with technology, anything is possible. We've seen how even just this webinar series, that we're able to touch not just one country, but multiple countries all at one time. And it's an amazing thing that either we use StreamYard or whether we use Zoom or Teams, we can connect people together. And that is, of course, what supply chains do. We connect a supplier and the end user, whether it be yourself or whether it be the different countries or different areas of the world. That is what we do. Then we go to the commodity chain. The commodity chain being the product. How do we produce it? Where does it come from? How can we create the value from just a seedling, or even better yet, the soil? Taking it back even a step further, that we haven't produced anything just yet, but as Professor Moni said, but the analytics of soil degradation, if that's the case, or whether it be weather, whether it be the changing climate, whether it be the rainfall, whether it be the issues from a different country affecting another country. So analyzing what happens during that whole entire process, what is the chain, what can be the domino effect, and what is the domino effect if one domino, if it's early or later, is either removed or it moves very quickly. The third part of it is education is key. And why is that? Well, when we're talking about Agri-Network, we can talk about e-commerce. We can talk about just face-to-face interactions. Two very different ways of interaction, whether it be through WhatsApp, whether it be with Zoom, or whether it be a participant of a supplier flying over to a different country to the end buyer or the end users. But how do we do that? Well, that was education. To be able to build the planes, we need to be educated. To be able to build the ships, we need to be educated. To be able to plant and make sure that the seedling grows into whether it be wheat, soybean, whether it be coffee or corn, or the plethora of agriculture products that we eat and use on a daily basis, education was there. And the reason why it is absolutely key is because if we do not have that, we cannot create value. Education is the foundation of where we start, of the global supply chain, where we start with a commodity chain. Because without having that knowledge, without having a great foundation, then we cannot have the chain move forward. And at the end of the day, what can be done? What can be done with technology? What can be done through webinars like this, as well as the collaborative effort? As much as we will say that we want to have everything homegrown, we didn't build society. We did not build the globe by being a one-man army. And why I say that? Well, one country can't build itself. Trade has always been part of every society throughout the ages. And it's something that technology has advanced immensely, from whether it be Amazon or Alibaba through their marketplaces for products of technology, such as TVs or phones, or even just the clothes on our back. They created a whole entire market, a digital market. But we have not done that for commodities in such a way that gives it security. There are plethora of platforms, but again, they aren't as secure as what we deem them as. And as we maneuver through this decade that is wrought with pitfalls, as we've just faced a pandemic and still going through it, as well as the onset of war through the Ukraine and Russian conflict, we need to create and understand each other, as well as be able to create newer paths on how we either self-sustain or how we recalibrate our collaborations. Because without collaborations, we will not be able to create the true value of what we can do. And why I say collaborations? Well, collaboration of the sun and water. Those are the collaborations through a seedling, whether it be the collaboration of technology and nature. Two totally different things, but yet when combined together can create magnificent results. And we've seen that. We can see that with automated farming. We can see that with detecting the weather patterns, the wind patterns, whether we can detect if the soil is too much carbon, whether there's too much sulfur, whether there's too much of anything within it, as well as using digital twinning, where we can, instead of going out there and actually planning and then seeing what happens, we can take a step back, analyze the area, analyze where we're going to build our farm, analyze where the weather patterns are, where the pollution is going to go to. And we can then analyze where that plot of land, that hectare or that acreage, we can understand that that's going to be the area in which we're going to plant something of quality. Then we can add the quantity. Then we can understand that, okay, we can only be in these barriers because of if we trail a bit further, the soil isn't as pure as it should be. And this will be the talk. This will be through our talk. But of course, we must first step back and talk about the global supply chain. Now, as you all know, that the global supply chain from the end of 2019, and it was the end of 2019, there started to be some faults. And that was, well, we could see from the technology standpoint of semiconductor issues. Throughout 2019 and then beginning into 2020, we could see that semiconductors, things that we have in our PCs, things that we use in our daily lives that we don't realize, there's very, very small chips that we have in our phones, that we have in our laptops, that we have on our gaming machines, or whether it be even part of our iPads, that started to have a shortage. And then we understood that, well, 2020 came along and the pandemic started. And that exacerbated the supply chain. We could see now that economies, because of being globalized, relied upon other countries too much instead of having a backup plan, making sure that we could secure farming, secure production, we could secure something that we could produce. It wasn't always saying that we could hand over the reins over production or producing, but it was always a backup plan. But as we've seen, and just this week, where India banned wheat exports as the heat wave hurt massive amounts of crops, you could see that pricing shot up of wheat. But before that, at the start of this year, when the Russian and Ukraine conflict happened, wheat shot up again. We could see as well with soybean, when Brazil announced that, again, another heat wave hit them very, very dramatically and very, very hard. Soybean prices shot through the roof. But this over-reliance of countries, of course, their speciality is producing these commodities. The globe didn't realize that we always should have a backup plan. There should always be a just-in-case factor. And this is where, of course, small producers and small suppliers can fill in the gaps. This is where small farmers can now become the behemoths through cooperative farming. But we'll talk about that a bit later on. As we know as well, in 2021, we saw the Suez Canal block. And we see that, of course, that costs not just billions of dollars of money to be thrown away every single hour to every single day that the Suez Canal was blocked, but as well getting products to countries in the southern hemisphere, it cost them a lot, from not being able to feed their nation to not being able to supply any country with products because of that blockage. That stopped not just oil, not just agriculture, but at least half of the southern hemisphere. And even that, logistics is still an amazing and very important part of, of the global supply chain. And it is part of creating that value chain. Because without logistics, without getting it in just in time, or whether it be at the right price, it can't happen. And as we see now, and with the conflicts in Russia and Ukraine, the LNG, liquid natural gas, has shot right up of how to produce it as well as how to transport it. And the numbers were in 2020, it cost $10 million to hire a ship. That wasn't to put it into the ship, but to actually just hire the specialized ship. When it came to 2022, that shot up to about $291 million USD, of course, to nearly 300 of that. So high container freights, that doesn't include the ones that require refrigeration. That is still costing quite a lot of money. And that's not just one nation, but every single nation. It affects everyone. But again, how can we stop that? Well, that's where we take a step back and we say, well, we can produce things at our country. There's always alternatives. And that word alternatives in the global market sometimes offends people. And why does it offend people? Well, it's similar to that of having a group of friends together and saying that you're only going to exclusively hang out with a friend, and the other group get offended. And it's, well, maybe the other group is, we'll say, busy. Maybe they're taking care of their father. Maybe they're taking care of their son or daughter. You can't spend time with them. But a lot of nations get offended when they say, "Oh, we found an alternative trading partner." We shouldn't have that reaction to when we said we found alternative ways, because finding alternative ways does not always mean that it's going to be 100% the right way, or even 100% the correct way of this partnership. Sometimes partnerships fail even before they cross even before they line up on the starting line. Sometimes it's halfway through the race. Sometimes it's at the end. Sometimes it's when the product has been delivered, and that's when consequences emerge. So when we say there's alternative ways in the supply chain, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to say we're going to rely upon this country or we're going to rely upon ourselves. It's just saying that we've got alternative ways, but we will still do the traditional ways, because as we know that trade between nations grow nations, and between people and partners, it creates magnificent relationships, whether it be with Australia and India, or whether it be India and Europe, or whether it be with America and Australia. It does not matter which relationship it is. Relationships grow nations. And by having that collaboration and that relationship together, we're not just growing together, but we can also grow the global production of any type of commodity. So, as I said beforehand, a lot of nations have said we're going to take a step back, and currently, specifically today here in Australia, it's voting for our next Prime Minister. But one of the campaign slogans, or one of the campaign topics, has been jobs. And right at the bottom, I've said jobs, jobs, jobs. And of course, that is part and parcel of what agriculture does. You need pickers, you need farmers, you need the logistics to drive from one location to the next, whether it be from the farm to a silo, or whether it be from the silo to the port that needs to transport it from the port, then onto the ship. The ship then goes to the another port. It gets off the ship, gets onto another trailer, and then goes to another silo. It's packaged, and then it's to our supermarkets, and then to our door. Through that, a lot of nations are saying we're going to take a step back from globalization, and that we're going to have everything homegrown. And that, of course, brings that security supply chain, that the connection now is home, that they can control it a lot greater. But there's still something missing, of course, still something missing. But with that being said, they're bringing jobs home. But that means if we think about it, if we have highly skilled individuals in a different country now not able to produce for another country, well, that means that we've just taken jobs from one location to the next to the other. But of course, we're having a step back, and we're saying, because your country is now going to produce, such as, for example, wheat, Australia's put up their hand, as well as India's put up their hand. So it is a win-win in that way. But at the same time, we can also trade with each other. We can trade the same commodity and have the same benefit and have the same quality as well. So but as well, we need to think about, with those jobs, education is there. And as I said, education is key, because some countries can only specialize and be experts in particular commodities. Here in Australia, we've got wool, we've got iron and ore, whether it be the iron ore of 62%, or whether it be pet coke, or whether it be wheat, or even wines. We need to understand that education, of course, is key, and with education we get experts. By having experts in particular fields, then we can move people from one location to the next to say, well, we can educate you. And that's one aspect and one key as well for self-reliance, as well as being able to be open, is to collaborate, as well as to find the value between that collaboration. Because collaboration, of course, we can have a great collaboration, but then no value can be created. Or we can make sure that value is created through that collaboration, through our experts, through, of course, agreements and disagreements, to find a solution for both parties, for both nations, or even multiple nations. So it's asking that question and asking that, how can we help you, and how can you help me? By asking those type of questions through even experts, or even on the lowest from the lowest part of the hierarchy, we'll say to farmers, how can a farmer help another farmer out? Well, that's where, as I said earlier, cooperative farming. We've noticed that a lot of the large producers, when there's change that requires to happen, well, it's similar to that of the Suez Canal incident with that ship. It takes a long time to maneuver it. But these cooperative farmers, whether they are small producers or even medium-sized producers, well, they can tackle the large producers, as well as their quality is a lot better, because it's not about the quantity. But the quantity will come when the collaboration of all farmers, or the small farmers and medium farmers, come together. They'll even be able to beat sometimes the large farmers. They'll be able to maneuver them a lot quicker with cooperative farming, agriculture networking, as well as the collaboration of technology as smart AI or smart farming. Now, we're going to take a bit of a step back here, and we're going to talk about each stage of the supply chain. And why do we talk about that? Well, we talk about that for one reason. To be able to understand the whole picture, we must be able to understand each picture. because when we understand each part, it's very important because we can see the value in each part, from on the ground, boots on the ground type of individuals to the individuals that are transporting, to where the grain or whether it be the product is stored, the product being stored onto a container ship, the container ship shipping it to another place, and then the reverse happening, but instead it going to supermarkets, then to your table. All parts can produce great value. And how can we do that? Well, it's like, how can I say, breaking apart a watch. And why I bring that up? Well, we understand that one cog in the watch, well, that moves one dial or one complication. And if we remove that complication, then the whole entire watch doesn't work. Well, it's similar to that of the supply chain or the commodity chain. If we don't grow a particular product, or if we remove logistics, or we remove the container ship, which is still part of logistics, or we remove a farmer, or we remove something, it's either doesn't start or it starts to break down. Now, it's very easy to say that we can create value from just one particular part, but that's not the case. We can create value from every single part of the supply chain. How do we do that? Well, it's very simple. We have to break it apart, and we can do it very easily. We need AI right now to be able to analyze the temperatures of whether it's going to be a heat wave or not. We can now understand when the wind is going to pick up. So that helps with, if we want to go into smart farming, we know that we can produce great wind energy, or whether it be solar energy, for smart farming. So it's sustainable. At the same time, we know what the rainfall is going to be like. We can estimate it. We can say that, okay, it's going to drop 100 millimeters of rain today. It's not going to do that tomorrow, but then we can analyze that. Then we can also analyze the soil, what its absorption rate is, as well as we can analyze the soil itself. Can it produce what we want it to produce? Is it healthy? Do we have to do anything about it? If we do, what do we need to do? So even before we start planting and start saying, just throwing us the seeds into the ground, we can understand already where the value can come from. And that's even before we've talked about the other parts. With tracking, to make sure that there's food safety, we got to have a standard. But it's difficult if we're going through bit by bit. It's like if we wanted to count rice, or better yet, all the sand in the world, it would be very impossible, or we would take a very long time. But if we've got the technology, such as digital twin, then we can say, okay, this area, this particular farmer, he can produce very high quality soybean, but he only can produce about, we'll say, 10,000 metric tons per month. But there's a lot of nations that are wanting 200,000. Well, then we can analyze and say, hey, hang on a minute, you can produce this quality, and there's a guy up north, he can produce the same, but maybe it's only 20, maybe it's less, maybe it's 5,000 tons. But they're totally two different farmers could speak to each other and say, well, let's collaborate, let's have a co-op. And right then and there, they can find the closest and the best way of getting that product to each other. To say, okay, we're going to collaborate, we're going to create a co-op. Okay, we've understood that your quality is the same as my quality. Let's do it. And right then and there, we've created another value connection. From being able to say that, well, the quality that you're producing and the quality that someone else is producing, the co-op is already producing value even before they've sold their product. And now we can include logistics. Well, it's always the right time, right place, at the right price. Now, being a fan of logistics, as I find it fascinating, as I can get something from Europe to Australia in a week, where it would have taken months and months if I was back in the, we'll say, 50s. Now it's only a matter of days. Now with logistics, we can now analyze and track how the product goes from one location to the next. But as well, what we can do is, well, let's track the product inside the container and see how much damage it does. How much damage the container has done to the product. Because there'll be times where a buyer will say, well, we will only accept about 2% that is damaged, for example, for soybean. Well, how do you track that? What happens if the container was able to say, well, it's going to, we'll say, damage only about 0.5% of the product? Or better yet, what happens if the container, and I'll use the example of Rolls-Royce, with their SUV, it will be able to analyze the potholes when it's driving. And so it will adjust the suspension. So what happens if we added that to the container? Again, that's value right there. You're now saying that I can transport my product, it'll be less damage, as well as by having it not damaged, the quality is perfect. The buyer's saying, well, I'm not getting 2% damage, I'm only getting not even 0.5%, maybe it's 0.01% of my product is being damaged, meaning that I can sell a lot more. Then as well, to produce that technology, well, you got to have steel, you got to have the creators that can code. Right then and there, you're creating more value. And that part where it's, again, going back to that watch analogy, breaking it apart, breaking whether it be the commodity or the process down into different cogs and into different mechanisms, you can now understand how just one part of the commodity chain can create so much value. And of course, I'm just using crude, as oil is just one of those things that we need. Even with crude, even though we're stepping away a bit from the agriculture, talking about crude just for a quick moment. Well, we need experts. We need experts to understand that this is where we're going to drill. This is how we're going to actually build the machinery to drill the hole to produce the oil. How do we know that this area is going to be the place that we can get oil from? Or whether it be this is the ship that we can actually move across and actually hold the oil. Can the ship not be damaged if there's any high winds, high waves when it's going from one nation to the next? And then we've got to go to the refinery. Well, is the refinery safe? How have we produced it? Can it analyze the oil properly? Do we need to say blend the product? How do we blend it? Is it 2%? Is it 3%? Is it 10%? Whatever it may be. That's more experts, more education. And even during that whole entire process, even before it gets into your tank, you've already produced a ton of value through just that. And we have not even said, well, because there's nations that want to say, well, we need it ASAP. We need it as soon as possible at our doorstep. Well, then we have to make sure that we've got to call the right people. We know that, and from my experience, it's a very tricky place to move forward, as there'll be people that will say, well, I've got the product, but then it's 5 phone calls later or 5 text messages later, and they actually don't have the product. So relying upon intermediaries that are reliable, like really reliable, that have the experience, and those are necessary. Those are very, very necessary, because if they aren't there, the trap is set. There will be people out there that will get you, And we've seen that multiple times throughout our trading process at GOC. But as we see from this diagram, we can see that there's several parts to it, not just in agriculture, but also in oil, but in any type of commodity. We can see that all parts of the commodity chain, we can find value, and we can add technology. We can add that which we wouldn't have thought that we could add 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But we go back and say, well, again, going back to education. But why is it key? Well, of course, we need information technology. We are truly living in a digital age. We can create universes through the metaverse and be able to say, using digital twin, saying, well, this is how it's going to be when we transport this product to this product, or how when we reproduce this, when we're going to say that the wind, if it goes to, we'll say 50 kilometers and then up it to 100 kilometers, what is it going to do to the crops? And now we've taken truly a step back from even the whole entire commodity chain, talking about the start. We're really talking about the start of where we can produce the most value, and that's education. It's not just about educating the farmers, but it's educating the farmers' sons, the daughters, the ones that are going to say, well, I'm working so hard to produce the crops so I can get you into university, like Shobhit University, and be able to say, well, I'm working hard, and then all of a sudden comes back, theoretically, coming back and saying, well, I want to make sure that my father or the farmer that has helped me go through university, I want to give back. I've studied technology. And how I'm going to make sure that we're going to have a good life, or make sure that double the income, is that by making sure the soil is perfect, making sure that when we can automate a farm, make sure that when it comes to a certain day, when it's extremely humid, more water to the ground to make sure, and we've got that. And is the water healthy? Is it too much salt in it, or is it dirty? How do we filter it out? Okay, so we use more technology to make sure that the viscosity of the water is perfect. But again, education is only one aspect of the commodity value chain. Because even if you've got it at the start, middle, or end, you still got to produce something. You still got to move something, and you still got to be able to eat something. So education is just part and parcel of what we can do with the value chain. It's still part of the foundation, but it's just one aspect of the foundation. Of course, that's, as I said and mentioned, education and AI. I can't code for myself, but people that do code, they're highly educated. And that opens great avenues, not just to produce petrochemicals, but as well as taking a step back and producing what is one of the most fundamental things that we need, and that's food. Whether it be soybean, whether it be wheat, whether it be cacao, whether it be corn, whether it be the delicious coffee, or whether it be tea. Education is needed if we want to have those smart farms. Whether we want to create, we'll say, requiring the energy to produce the smart farms, well, we might need to go more. We want sustainability. We want to wean ourselves off fossil fuels. So how do we do that? Well, we've got education, we've got AI to be able to say, hey, we want to make sure that this automated farm is truly green. How do we do that? Well, we've got to have wind energy, or maybe we've got to have solar, or maybe we can use water, or we can use thermodynamics. Whatever it may be, the energy that we want to go green with, There's a possibility, but it's always education that will reign supreme. We'll come in and say, hey, you got to be able to learn this before. It is learn to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. And as I said earlier, with trusted intermediaries, well, that comes the networks. And we know with networks and management, we know how some people aren't good with networking. Some people aren't good at managing. They know how to produce and they can talk your ear off with how to produce whatever the commodity is. But they have no clue of how to network. They have no clue how to manage relationships. They can look at managing the big picture of making sure that all the crops, all the agriculture is absolutely perfect. That the quality of it is perfect. But what about the finer details? Finer details sometimes that gets lost. And this is where I've come and realized that a lot of the large players, they are looking at the big picture that they can produce millions upon millions of tons per year, and it won't affect them. But how do they manage their quality? Where's the quality assurance? Where's the food safety? Where's the food security? Where is the sudden agility and speed that they can say, well, we're going to change it up. Why are we going to change it up? Well, rain is not going to be predicted until a month later. How can they change up? Well, they can't really. They've committed. But that's when we've got the smaller ones, smaller producers. They've got the agility, and they've got the speed. But hang on a minute, they're missing in that other part, what the large guys have, networking. Now, that's where, again, you've got intermediaries that can bring together that moment. That's where e-commerce, a perfect example of e-commerce, comes in. That's why we've got WhatsApp, where we can call up very quickly from, we'll say, from Europe, France, for instance, from a guy in Australia that says, well, we're producing olives. We need olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Can you guys produce it? It's like, yes, we can. We need X amount of metric tons. And ready, they've already got an order. And if we did it a different way, we wouldn't be able to do that. If we did it the traditional way, we'd have to fly one person to the other, speak to the other, and then he would bring himself to the product, say that, oh yeah, we're going to produce that, test the product, fly all the way back, get the order, fly all the way back. Long process. With technology, we're able to very quickly say, well, we've got this product. We can show you it. We can even have a video call or have even a seminar saying, well, we've got this product. This is the best. Here it is. They can even able to show how the soil is, what the water is going to be like. Be able to show it to the end customer and say, well, this is how it's going to be. But again, of course, that requires data, large amounts of data. So the agility and speed is one thing. Data is another. Managing is another. And the other part is networks. Because without networks, we can't have what we have right now. Networking is how we've created massive amounts of trade. It's knowing one person that knows another has the product. And through that, even that small chain that's managed, we can produce results very quickly. But we live in a day and age now that it's agility, speed, maneuverability. If we're not able to maneuver, as one of the guys from Shark Tank, if you can't pivot, then you're gone. And that's similar to that of farmers. If you can't pivot in such a way, well, you're going to lose half your crops or, part of your crops. With the value in that, whether it be the time invested, the infrastructure that's being put in place, whether it be 10%, or whether it be 60%, you've lost. But being able to be agile, being able to find that speed, being able to have those key networks and be able to have those connections of management that requiring that data, well, then anything is possible. And now we lead to the Agri-Network. As I say here, it's not just about helping farmers with sustainability. With sustainability, of course, we want to make sure that, how can I say? What we want to make sure is that it's green. And that because of it going green, whether it be organic, whether it be we're producing non-GMO product, we want to make sure that it's helping every single part of the supply chains. And by creating that value through each part of the supply chain, we're not just helping farmers out, we're helping communities out. Now, what does it mean by the community? Well, we could say the community of just soybean, the logistics. We could say the community of steel that is required to produce the pipes that are required to be used for the sprinkler systems, or to produce the tractors, or whether it be for the tankers. So all those parts, and all those communities thrive. Now, having that agriculture network, whether it be the e-commerce, or whether it be having networks on your phone, or whether it be just having regular old networks from universities, for example, when you integrate it with technology, when e-commerce really is connected with each farmer, whether it be like with the small farmers, SME farmers, they have a greater reach, and that does equal greater success. It truly creates greater success is because now they can call up very quickly. They can put their commodity online a lot quicker, sell it a lot faster, and be able to move it a lot quicker than what guys can do when they're looking at, let's say, 500,000 amounts of tons of whatever the product is. With the large farmers, they have to negotiate. They have to make sure that they're selling it to the right people. Then they have to make sure that the government approve it. So all these hoops that they've got to jump through, well, the small agriculture network doesn't have to, or it's a lot less than what would normally be for the large producers. I was told one time by my mentor, network, network, network. But how do we network? It's not taught in university. It's not taught in everyday life. It's not taught in when you get into your own company. How do you network? Well, here's the thing. Networking, you go into a company and you start talking to people. Relationship building. When you go into university, talk to your students. Talk to the teachers. Straight away network like that. Because you don't know who you're going to pick up on the way. Because that is how you will be able to create these agri-networks. Creating platforms like this, creating webinars, creating conferences where there's interaction, where we can have separate rooms to say, well, I'm a buyer, I'm the end buyer, and I know that you've got a product, but how much can you produce? Well, I'm going to produce XYZ. Okay, let's bring another couple, create the co-op, make sure that there's one representative. By creating that one representative, well, that's fantastic. Having that co-op farming and having it as not just as an archipelago. And the reason why I bring up the archipelago is that archipelago is like all these small different islands all over the place. Now, if we've got all these archipelagos that can't communicate with each other, how do we communicate? Well, we pick up the phone. Well, hang on a minute, they don't have the phone. How do we do it? How do we do it online? Well, we can create that platform where we'll say these producers of farmers can produce XYZ. Fantastic. Let's send a friend request. Let's collaborate. And even online, now we've, instead of having it, oh, it's my neighbor, it's another guy on the other side of the country that's producing the same quality and same quantity as me, or even a bit more, maybe a bit less. Now we're in an agreement. We've got an MOU. We've got multiple agreements to say we're going to produce this, you're going to produce that. We'll bring it into the middle, and then we can split the profit right then and there. Even though the guys have not even talked to each other in terms of face-to-face, that maybe they've just called each other. Maybe they have something like this, but they haven't met truly face-to-face. But right then and there, you've got that network. And that's just one example of what we have in Agriculture Network. And that's what we can do at even GRC. That's what we do. We create those networks. And that's where you need trusted intermediaries. By having trusted intermediaries that have the background, they have the history. Well, I'll put it very simply. When you know that this certain store is able to produce or buys the right set of pants, I know most of you won't, change to a different brand. Same with intermediaries. Once you know that these intermediaries have done it in the past on a regular basis, or maybe it's an irregular basis, but they've got a history. They've got a proven track record that can help you get that network and continue. But as I've said about reliable intermediaries, why they're necessary, why they are the gatekeepers. Well, of course, we haven't built society with we'll say shadowy individuals. We've had trusted intermediaries. We've had trusted and reliable individuals. We've collaborated with greats. We've been able to collaborate through nations. As I've got the picture there, a collaborative network delivering collective impact. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful slogan. Because that is what happens when you've got a great agri-network. That is when nature, technology, truly collaborate to one. Through that, that's when we can see even greater value coming from it. That's where we said networking through technology, as I've mentioned earlier, WhatsApp, Viber, Messenger. But then, hang on a minute, how do we know for certain the people that we're talking to are the right people? Well, that's where you've got the reliable intermediaries, such as myself. We're the gatekeepers. We're the ones that say, okay, show us the product. Show us the buyer. Whether it be the seller, whether it be the buyer, the intermediary does all the work of making sure that the end, where the product is going, or where the product has been produced, are real. Because it's very easy online sometimes to trick people. And that's where you've got to do your research. But the producer, the seller, they don't have enough time. They've got to be in the field. They don't have enough time to talk to these people. Well, that's where we say we've got the reliable intermediaries. We've got that extra bucket of guys that, hey, we'll do the work for you. And why? Well, we want to make sure that you're producing for your country. We want to make sure that you're getting the right pay. And we want to make sure as well that the end product is going to the right buyer. And the right buyer and the buyer, he's got the facilities to facilitate the transaction. Because there have been several times in this line of work where a lot of producers have been taken for a ride and they've lost millions upon millions of dollars because of faulty information, lies, deceitfulness, and it's something that I've seen multiple times with multiple transactions where, because they don't have reliable intermediaries, that they lose the product and they lose their reputation. When you have a specialist intermediary that weeds out the individuals that aren't truly part of the agri-network or truly part of the network of commodities, then you're going to lose. That's why you have the intermediaries. Now with Agri-AI, we come to here. What is Agri-AI? How can AI assist in agriculture? What are the benefits of Agri-AI, and why is it now needed more than ever? Well, as Professor Moni said, climate change has been just absolutely decimating crops, and we can see it on the first slide how the heat wave in India, now they have to put a ban on it, on wheat. If we're able to have those AI functionalities, that we're able to have those, we'll say, guardians that can protect us, those digital guardians. And why do I say that? Well, we can now understand how the weather is going to be in about a month's time. We can prepare for it. We do that with flooding. We make sure that we have floodgates. We make sure that things are clean. We make sure canals are built in such a way that they either block the water in a certain way. AI helps that. Back in the day, we would just say, well, we're going to build a meter-high concrete wall. Well, that's not going to do much. Nowadays, we go, well, we can make it, the wall will be curved when, we'll say, the waves come in, because we know that the slashing effect will drift it away a lot better. As well as we'll put these things called dragon teeth to make sure that it cuts up the wave even before it hits the beach. Just for example, for that. That's what AI can do. It can predict things that we would never think of. That's why we need it, because there's moments where we as humans can't predict the things of nature, but AI can. It can give us a greater warning system that we have never thought of. And why we need it more than ever is because there's warnings coming every second now. And even that creates value through making sure that by having the right AI, by having it, we'll say, knowing what the temperature is in the ground to what it is in the air, we can now use the right amount of water.
Mr. Andrew, can you just speed up?
Yes, we'll do, Professor. With Agri-AI, well, the solution is part of the missing link of what we got. And as we've seen, small co-ops, as I've mentioned, small co-ops, if we add AI and plus effective logistics, well, it equals success for all of us. And as I said before, small co-ops move quicker. They create more value for the chain. With large co-ops, of course, they create value. But that being said, they move like a tanker ship. It's going to take forever. So with Agri-AI, we can see that how it's currently now the missing link. Now, why I've had this? Well, artisans back in the day, with the assistance of the right networks and right technology, well, we can create that. We've got that capacity, and we've got the networks now ever in place. It's just creating that linkage, starting the fire. I've put up a comment: the father, the traditionalist; the son, the technologist. Engage and collaborate. Well, I can use for India, where it still has the father that's traditional. Oh, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. But the son, of course, will say, oh no, we've got technology, we can do it the modern way. But that's also what we can do. We can collaborate greater between father and son, where the methods of tradition can be updated to modern, and we can make, we'll say, agriculture double. It just captures the attention of the whole entire community. Sorry. And I've come up with a couple of things with what we can do. As I mentioned, we can do with efficient tracking systems. We can make sure that where the product comes from, the ground where it's produced, we can create that efficient tracking system to be able to say, well, I can get it from one location to the next, and I can track the whole entire process. And that enterprise or resource planning of how agile are you, we can track that as well. We can see how agile the small co-ops are. Traceability and responsibility, we can see that. Now we can, as I said, from the table of, well, we've got a bunch of seeds on our table, how can we produce it, to the consumer? Well, it's a complex system. So how do we do that? That's when we've got the efficient tracking systems. That's where I said, where we can say that with the right container ships, where they can see the bumpy road or how the how the container ships can shake it all up. Well, we can make sure that the product is now 100% secure, that we can move the product without having it damaged. That's fantastic. There's another thing that I've also come up with. It's, of course, well, collaboration in nations of farming, and bring technology. Like, you bring the technology, I bring the agri know-how. But then we can say this. Let's change it and have vertical farming. There's three commodities that are the most difficult of vertical farming. Those are wheat, soybean, and cacao, because they require large amounts of water and they require large amounts of energy. Now, how do we do that? Well, we can go with solar panels if we wanted to produce that. But hang on a minute, solar panels aren't as efficient as they are. One thing that Global Opportunities Commercialization have just recently collaborated with is a wind provider that provides wind technology and provides energy with a vertical wind producer. So we can have vertical farming as well as on top of the farm, vertical wind. That solves the whole entire issue of energy, because that is one of the biggest difficult things, is being able to have vertical farming and the energy that is required to pump out that artificial suns for the crops. How do we do that? Well, what we can do and what we can all collaborate with is the technology that GOC has, where we can say, well, we've got vertical farming, and it's a win-win situation, as well as that, of course, crops will grow vertically. Now, right at the end of my presentation, I must add this, that Global Opportunities Commercialization's trading platform, that we provide the intermediary service. We provide sellers, we provide buyers, we collaborate with sellers' mandates, we are our buyers' mandates. There's three segments that we are mainly attached to. That's energy, agriculture, and metals. And of course, we've done healthcare, where we've done with COVID-19 vaccines for Asian countries and with African countries, as well as here in Australia, whether for products of PPE. So we've been able to brokerage multiple transactions through our global network. And we are gladly to take on any and all your needs, as we are the gatekeepers to make sure that you are secure, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you are secure, because we're only able to have great relationships, reliable relationships, when we have the assurance of that the intermediaries are looking after your needs. So I really thank you so much, Professor Moni, for giving me this opportunity to speak at the platform. I hope I haven't gone over time, but thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Oh,
Thank you very
Professor,
much, Mr. Andrew Gavgan. You can come out from your presentation. It's very nice of you to explain threadbare the commodity value chain through the necessary required Agri-Network and Agri-AI by giving a lot of examples from the present situations, what is really happening. And I was quite impressed that you said that global value chain in agriculture, you go with, small, cooperatives and, the farming and cooperatives and farming and the technology. And India, we got about 1 lakh primary agricultural cooperative societies and 22,000 primary fisher cooperative societies. And we have in the webinar series, we started with role of agriculture cooperative societies and e-governance. So you talked about very effectively that networking, agriculture networking, how we can bring it, and agriculture AI, which is necessary because agriculture is an it works always on in a different questionable manner, because it's an unstructured problem. We do not know what will happen tomorrow, and even if it is a good harvest, whether we'll be able to sell it or not. So we have to bring in something like that, a stable and a system which, if it produced a good quality product which is produced in this one part of the country, and if it is possible to sell it in other parts of the world, it is possible today because of the good network which is takes place. And that's how even the first slide which came out, that your continent, the first slide is very important. You say that through road, by air, and by ship, by sea, water transport, surface transport, and sky, and plane. It's very air transport. It's very important that you talked about it, that it is very essential, and how global opportunities, commercialization, COC, located in Melbourne, is working on different areas, how to take advantage. We have infrastructure, we have institution, we have 14.5 crore operational holders. 85% are operational holders are small and marginal farmer. 400 and above, more than 400 commodities. India has got 365 days sunshine, 100 and more than 133 agroclimatic zone. We are producing commodities which are needed by the whole world throughout the year. How we can make these commodities that are tradable throughout the world, to bring in the global value chain. With this, I think my other two valued viewers are on the screen. Can I ask Dr. Sumit to get connected and also give your viewpoints? Dr. Sumit, are you connected? Mr. Maya, Suresh, Mr. Manishji, are they connected? Okay. Dr. Smith, Parikh, and Mr. Maya Kannan. Mr. Maya Kannan, can you put your video on?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, so I think Dr. Smith, Parikh.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Smith, Parikh. Good afternoon. And we had, I think there is some echo.
Oh, there's some echo. I think I need to mute myself.
Okay, now it's all right. Okay. And we had talked by Mr. Andrew Gavagan from Melbourne, Australia, on a very important topic, commodity value chain through Agri-Net and Agri-AI. He explained on the ground conditions and what is to be done and what they are doing it, and and important ingredients which are needed. And it's it's that that how we can benefit from the global opportunities, commercialization, with respect to Indian agriculture. I would like to hear from you that since you are also involved in agricultural e-commerce, what is your view with respect to this today's topic? What do you would like to add to what Mr. Andrew Gavagan has talked about it briefly?
Thank you so much. Thank you
Dr.
so much.
Smith, sorry.
Thank you, Professor Moni, for getting me on board here today. And I was listening to Andrew's whole conversation. It was super amazing. A lot of insights. It seems like he has put his entire life into commodity trade and I would say lot of insights, which even I was never aware of. Even I was searching in Google, but it's way beyond the Google search. So thanks, Professor Moni, to get Andrew on board. He's one of the few foreigners whom I see that, okay, they are really putting a lot of value, not just for themselves, but for the entire supply chain itself. So Andrew, thank you so much. Maya sir, thank you. Professor Moni, and to all of you, let me tell a few things. I'm getting my voice echo in between. Okay, so we have got many commodities which can be traded. Some commodities have got a lot of global demand recently. We have created a global trade platform. I'll share the link to Andrew as well as to the rest of the people here in this group. And this plan is to do bulk international trade, and we have to create our own alternate supply chain because the supply chain which is already there are mostly connected by different competitors from different countries, and they are not adding a lot of value because the problem is, I'm not talking about India specifically, our exports are not that much as the Chinese people are doing export of commodities across the world. But if I see the value that Chinese are bringing, they're not really bringing a lot of value. They're just taking more value for themselves. And here, what Professor Moni and we are trying to intend is, like, what we are planning to do is, if we can have our own alternate value chain, supply chain, which we can control or which we can run, there are many countries who are currently in debt due to the Chinese way of doing business. And because of that, the recent thing, what happened in Sri Lanka, I'll just give you an example here. The recent thing that happened in Sri Lanka, I'm sure we all are aware of. They got the fertilizers, which was organic fertilizers from China, and that was the main cause that the whole economy collapsed. If we all know about it, then I don't have to speak much. But I think there are viewers here who don't know in the Facebook live and the webinar live. So let me just tell you the exact crisis challenge that happened. First of all, they have no tourism because of some internal issues which is going on in Sri Lanka. And then they had stopped importing the foreign fertilizers like the urea or anything you call it, because $400 million worth of urea they had to import in Sri Lanka. So they thought like they'll go for the organic way of farming, but the organic farming takes about 10 to 15 years. Like in India, we have a place called Sikkim, which is doing organic farming. In Northeast India, it is happening right now. So the organic farmers were looking for organic fertilizers. They don't have any organic fertilizers. They just stopped and made a ban for the chemical-based fertilizers. This made $70 million worth of import of organic fertilizer from China. And this fertilizer had got some kind of disease. Some bacteria was present in that fertilizer, which was eating of the entire crops. So basically, the crop is supposed to grow from the fertilizer, and the fertilizer itself is eating of the crop. Now just think, they had to now ship that crop fertilizers that they got from China back to China only, right? It costed them $7 more million just to send it back. So if you see, everyone today in the whole world understands that China and India are the two countries which have got the power of doing the export because the cost of production is cheaper comparatively to other countries. Now here, there was a testing for the last 10-15 years. The world has given a lot of chance to China, and China has shown what they can do. What they have done, a great damage. I'm sorry to say that. I'm not against any person in China, but the way this entire system is operating. So it is important that we understand that the value chain has to be done with somebody who is really adding value end to end. So here comes India, and I think Andrew's talks, Professor Moni's interest for the long time on uplifting India's economy through trade and through this agricultural based economy, which India should be doing. I think we are having a very good fertile land. We have so many commodities. We have many things which we are planning to make organic now, and India is not working in the exact way how the rest of the world is going. We have our own philosophy, and we are just following that. So we understand that the Northeast India has got organic fertilizers now over the last 20 years, which is plant based, like these leaves, they become decayed and they only become the fertilizers. That's the organic fertilizers, and these are natural. So the product quality, the taste, and the what you say minerals in the food is always better than the products which are from urea based. So here we have an opportunity of organic farmed products export to the global markets, and a lot of commodities can be exported. What we can do, we can work on a process where our students, we also run an institute with Shobhit University. There's a program called the postgraduate program in agricultural e-commerce, which covers almost 70 plus different agricultural commodities. And these commodities are not commodities, industries of commodities. For example, fisheries itself is an industry. Then horticulture is another industry, right? Flowers, it's a huge industry. Fruits and vegetables are another industry. Like this, we have got 70 plus industries within agriculture. If you name it, there are 95,000 plus commodities which are GI tagged in India. That is, it is India's own product in agriculture sector itself. There are many more which I'm not aware of, but whatever I got to know, I'm just talking about. So many things can be integrated into a value chain. We can train our students in India about the e-commerce business and how they can export from India, the low cost process. Andrew's team can be there to help. Another team members across the world we can connect who are into the e-commerce system, or maybe I can say the trade promotion councils or chamber of commerces in various parts of the world. They can be integrated into the program, so our students can learn about e-commerce, and these people can start exporting through a B2B platform. So the B2B platform is the missing link. We can teach people, but where they will sell, they will again search in internet, they'll go to Instagram, Facebook, because they don't know. So this is one missing element, and I have myself been investing a good amount of money in building this B2B infrastructure. So this infrastructure will be helping us to upload the products in the website, and the minimum quantity of product that they are okay to export, that they can list in that, and the price that is okay for them to sell, they list it. And I'm very much sure it will be economical for foreigners to purchase products from this B2B e-commerce portal, because we are not listing crazy prices in dollar value. We will be listing price converting the Indian rupee to the dollar value. That means it won't be like, okay, in US, the cost of oranges, example, if it is $2 per kg. So my farmers here who are going to upload the products are not going to put $1 because, okay, $1 he will pay, $1 he will earn, not like that. I know in India, the cost is about 5 rupees or 4 rupees or 3 rupees per kg in the wholesale market. So our farmers are going to list that product because our interest is that let it boost our country's economy through trade, through exports. And this is what we have to teach these people also, that there are no brokers, no middlemen, no in between mediatories in between. It is just the, like we call D2C, direct to consumer, same way, direct, that is the farmer, to the international markets. So there's a huge cost which is saved, and we can stabilize the international trade hoax which is going on, like that chaos is going on, right? Like nobody is knowing what to do. People are doing drop shipping from China. A lot of things are not in control. People are not aware. The younger generation is still thinking that they have to import everything from China. When pen to aeroplane, everything the things they have to buy from China only. China is the only option that has been feed in the minds the last 20 years from internet. But it is not the reality. We all know it, that the products are locally grown here in India. It is grown in Australia also, and those products can be sold over internet and that can be exported. There are a lot of things which we can do. So I think with Professor Moni, thank you so much. I think I may keep talking, which may not add more value in this call.
Okay, thank you
So
very much, Dr. Sumit Parekh, with your vast international experience and also now presently located in India to work with university and also various other disciplines, and also to launch this agriculture. Hello, hello. to work on agricultural e-commerce beach diploma program with university, and also he brought out lot of issues which are important for India to achieve, to take benefit out of global trade. And your D2C or B2B platform is very important. And now let me hear Mr. Maya Kannan. Is also participated in the program earlier, and I was very much impressed by his concept of agri-trade hub and also e-token for trading in the global, value chain. Mr. Maya Kannan, over to you.
Thanks, Professor Moni. Can you hear me very well? Or are you guys able to? Okay, good. Hey, Andrew, it was a fantastic presentation. I truly enjoyed the specific aspect of it in terms of when you talked about creating values, not directly from the commodity, but from the tiny bits and pieces of elements that adds to the value chain, right? That was, out of all the things, I enjoyed that particular piece, and I wanted to talk about it because that goes in alignment with what I've been doing with Agri-Karma. Agri-Karma is a deep tech enabled AI blockchain platform for agro commodity trade, but not trading it as a commodity, but as a digital asset. You can go to agrokarma.com to learn more about it. My question, a few things I wanted to throw based on what you are discussing in terms of the IoT as an enabler, AI as an enabler to create values. What we call it as a value-oriented architecture, right? Finding the hotspots within a specific industry or a specific organization to create an unimaginable value that can be traded. So in the agriculture, especially when we are moving goods from the smallholder farmers competing with the large players, as you rightly said, the competition is going to be much difficult. And how, in my perspective, there are the modern innovative tools, not just the data, but the other aspects of it, consuming the data and creating intelligence out of it and making that intelligence tradable. So people don't pay for data anymore. People wanted intelligence. So whether it is, as you rightly pointed, whether it is a climatic change, if you could capture the essence of something is going to happen in the next few weeks or 1 week ahead, the value for that would be much bigger than the 100 quintals of commodity that you're moving, because it just absolutely if you are moving the goods which is completely going to be damaged over in the next 1 week, and if you could able to save it, that creates fantastic value, right? By my question, I've been I'm in the process of writing a book on this economics of modern day economics of digitalization and digital asset trading called Moyanomics, which will be published in the month of July. During my research, I have been finding that one of the things that we will be facing, we are already facing, is the world becoming vertical, right? Countries raising their bars. I'm a trader. I love trading, right? I've been from the trading family, and that's why, it motivates for me to, focus on the trading part of it. So for my book, I've been researching last 2,000 years of history of trading, right? And as you were pointing out, without trading, nations are not going to be survived by themselves. It's not only today. Even 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, nations were trading with each other, right? That's that's how the world survived and grew, and it's going to grow more. Now, the only major problem I'm facing, I've been finding right now, I will put this as a question to you: the so-called free trade agreements, right? Somehow these free trade agreements, which are created during the end of the Cold War, mostly seems to be failing, right? Between the regions, or so. What is in your opinion, what is the alternate for free trade agreements? Because it's just not producing, but moving the goods across the world. I see that policy and this kind of international cooperation is going to be the bottleneck at some point of time, right? What's your opinion on take on this?
That's a very good question. And it is true that free trade agreements, they haven't been as, could we say, productive, or haven't been as fruitful as they could be. And you are right that they are currently failing. Because we've Australia and India has just signed one, funnily enough. I think they signed it in April, which I think it's a great example of the first step of building a relationship, but it shouldn't be the core aspect of building that relationship, because when we're talking, as we said, talking about trade, we can go back 2,000 years ago, and we've been doing it pretty much with no effort, with no issue. But all of a sudden, when we try and complex a system that is simple, that becomes a huge error. And why I say that is, well, there's sometimes, what I've come to realize in life is that there's sometimes that technology is actually just not needed. And I'll say this: to be able to have a conversation with a person from my generation, because I'm in the millennial generation, where we talk through our phone, and when I mean talk through our phone, it's done in text form, right? Now, I can't understand your emotions, I can't understand your mannerisms, I can't understand any of that, right, through a text message. So the best way that I can actually talk to you and get the substance from you is face to face, right? And when it comes to like free trade agreements, like I've got to really understand where you come from, really get my hands dirty and understand, okay, that this is the environment, this is what we're getting ourselves into, because if I don't know that, how can we sign these agreements? How can we go, okay, yeah, we'll just do it, without actually getting our hands dirty, actually going into the country that we're seeing, spending a bit of time there, and actually understanding the culture, because it's a very important thing about trade, is understanding cultures. There's for example, I come from Philippines. Part of me comes from Philippines, and so my culture of where I come from is totally different from the north, for example. So how we trade is totally different how they would trade, even though it's very similar. There's still mannerisms. And when we come to free trade agreements, again, as I said earlier, it's a good start, but it's not modernized. It's that cold era type of way of dealing with things. And we do really need to assess them in a more modern day era of how we can say, okay, this is how we're going to trade. This is how we're going to trade as partners, because I don't think it's no longer a partnership. It's more of, well, as I said earlier, we want to find alternatives, and by restricting ourselves, it doesn't grow a country. Of course, we say that we'll have that partnership, but we still need more. Not because it's greedy, but that's just there's, for example, Korea will Korea will produce something that we need, and India will produce something that we need, but Australia will need something to produce for both of those countries, and then we'll have like this triangle of being able to produce things together. But if we say we're signing these trade agreements, then it should be more of partnership signing rather than just singular signing. So that's that's I do definitely agree that free trade agreements, they have, I would say, semi-failed. They haven't completely failed, but they've failed to really modernize how trade should be. So.
Maya Kannan, would like to have any more observations?
Yeah, that was the main thing I wanted to point out. And then also other thing is, as an extension of that, I think the modernization of free trade agreements could be done by the very own decentralization. Understanding the world is decentralized. I think the regional agreements are not effective anymore, but at some point of time, some people, some of the nations try to dominate over the other, right? So I think the cookie cutter solutions has to be changed, and there has to be a mutual dynamic, agreements or just in trade kind of an approach has to be there. And the tech can, in my opinion, tech can really support a lot. The modern day tech, including the blockchain and AI put together, can create fantastic governance models by which nations can get into not necessarily sign a big agreement for next 20 years, 30 years, but really have a just-in-time kind of agreements to move the goods, which is, and also the according to the needs of the local needs, satisfying the local needs as well as, being part of the global needs. And the other aspect I wanted to point out, what we do is to try to improve the tradability. One of the things why agriculture doesn't take the higher precedence in the capital market is because it's it has there's an opinion why because it's a commodity. It doesn't generate more tradable value, subsequent tradable value that is missing in the agriculture market, and we can really change it. The point to what Andrew was mentioning about value, right? I think more and more has to be invested. The time, energy, and money has to be invested on creating value out of the agriculture commodity trading. That could be traded. That value can be traded as a digital asset in my value-oriented architecture model under which Agri-Karma is designed. That's all from my side. Thank you.
That people from trading community, see, Dr. Smith Parikh, for 7 generations, they are doing international trading. And he is the 7th generation. And Maya Kannan, you also said it that you had a lot of interest in trading because you are coming from the trading community. And then Mr. Andrew Cavagan is also global operations commercialization. The important thing is that today's topic is commodity value chain creation through Agri-Net and Agri-AI. It's very important. And, the way in which he talked about it. And also, I'm very happy that both of you, both Mr. Maya Kannan and Dr. Smith Parikh, you are able to find the time to join and give your own perception how India can get benefit out of it. And my request will be that how we both all the 4 Shobhit Institute of Engineering and Technology, DIMTIP University, and Dr. Smith Parikh, who has signed an MOU with the university, and Maya Kannan, he is likely to sign an MOU with the university, and Andrew Gavagan, the GOC, has already signed an MOU with the university. And it's very important that let us, based on the today's talk, let us prepare an approach paper, policy paper, for submission to Government of India, and how we should be in a position to go for some sort of a project, what do you call these these POC projects, proof of concept project, in some of the developing countries from Africa and Asia, how to bring in technology enabled agriculture commodity value chain, establishing Agri-Net and Agri-AI is very important. The topic is the 2 webinar series we conduct. I am very happy today is 75th webinar series of this international webinar series on open source digital technology in association with ARDO. ARDO has got 33 member countries, 16 Africa and 15 Asian countries members, and 2 are observers. And we'll be in a position to work with the ARDO to bring in our collective wisdom on bringing in creation of commodity value chain through Agri-Network and Agri-AI. It's very important. And which Dr. Smith Parikh is doing, Dr. Maya Kannan is doing it, and I was quite impressed by his platform, and how you would like to have it as a digital asset, agricultural trade. It's very important. As a person who was involved in agricultural informatics, and also being a person of technology adoption in the country through e-governance, it's very important. And then Andrew Gavagan, and he is at this young age, he's involved in a business of about $1 billion worth of commercialization. He's doing global trade in various verticals. So let us prepare an approach paper. I will request all, we'll form a small group, all the 4, and try to bring in that how to facilitate digitalized 400 commodity value chain from India. And this is a very important. I'd like to request you. I think Mr. Mayakannan wants to say something. Yes, Mr. Mayakannan.
Absolutely, Amen. Yes, definitely. We have to do something to educate the government, because these are all emerging business models. There's a lot of representation, and if we don't do it, who else is going to?
Thank Mr. Andrew Gavagan and Mr. Smith Parikh, and for this important webinar today. We had it, that is on the commodity value chain creation through Agri-Network and Agri-AI. And Mr. Andrew Gavagan said it very nicely that we have seen traditional agriculture network, but we have to visualize and get benefit from the emerging Agri-Network, and also how to adopt agricultural AI in agricultural trading systems. And his synopsis is very important. I will circulate it to all of you. And he said that the small cooperatives and Agri-Network and Agri-AI are the things to happen in future. And with this, I would like to thank all of you. And even though this today webinar series is for 1 hour 30 minutes, I think we have completed this talk in about 2 hours 13 minutes. I think that gives the importance of this webinar series theme. Thank you very much, and let us join together. And we have already formed a working group, WhatsApp group, and I will also include Mr. Andrew Gavagan in that group, wherein Mr. Dr. Smith Parikh and Maya Kannan are there as a member. Agriculture Trade Hub, Shobhit University Agri Trade Hub. And we also have an MBA in Agribusiness Management. That program needs to be globalized, and it's very important. And this program has been designed in such a manner that it helps from the bottom up. And this is an important thing. And thank you very much for all the three for joining today in a very important conference. With this, I would like to close the webinar and we'll leave the studio. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for your participation and greeting from Shobhit University. For more research inquiries, please contact Professor Moni, Professor Emeritus and Chairman, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Applications, Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, and former Director General, National Informatics Center, Government of India, New Delhi. I thank our Honorable Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and His Excellency Secretary General Arno. And let us meet tomorrow, next week, Saturday at 11:30 for another webinar on the very important topic in the international webinar series on open source digital technology towards self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you very much.